Or he's doing like Amanda Nunes. Nunes walked away and decided she was just gonna change diapers, and apparently she got tired of playing Father of the Year, which McGregor is in no threat of. Maybe Dee Devlin is making him come back. Maybe she's trying to make him get out the house. Right after his victory at UFC 325, Mauricio Ruffy called out Conor McGregor. And to be fair, it wasn't too pacific. He also called out Paddy Pimblett. So he was just doing what a person in that position is supposed to do. He was making the right moves. He's trying to move his way up. And you might think it's kind of weird. Why is he calling out Paddy Pimblett? That dude just came off an ugly loss. He was still ahead of him in the game, bigger name and all that, so I got it. But I was like, Conor McGregor, where does that come from? Who's he going to call out next? Tank Abbott? Chuck Liddell? Where's he going with this? And I was over here scratching my beanie. Everybody was confused. I had people in the chat, people from the Mexican Fight Companion at home, putting on beanies just so they could scratch them. Everybody was confused because there's been all this chatter of Conor McGregor having his difficulties. And there's always this frustrating narrative, whether it's Gaethje, Volkanovski, and so on and so forth, and etc. And all these dudes are in the forums and the comment sections talking papas about they're too old. They're washed up. And I'm over here in the corner like Aaliyah talking about AJ ain't nothing but a number. It doesn't matter that things didn't turn out with Chandler the way that they were supposed to. It doesn't matter that he didn't win president of Ireland so that he could fight at the White House as a president. It doesn't matter that he's having maybe some difficulties right now with his renegotiations with the UFC. This dude just keeps pushing forward until that bell rings. That's what she said in the court documents. So let's just mentally allow ourselves to get past that point. Let's just assume that he can and will fight again, and that it's not absolutely hilarious that Ruffy called him out. Now, is there any legitimacy to what's been going around lately? Because Ruffy has said in an interview that this didn't just come out of nowhere. That Conor McGregor has said that he thinks it will be a good matchup, striker on striker violence, and that he would like to come back to something competitive like that. That supposedly Conor McGregor was implying that he, possibly dissing Michael Chandler without saying his name, that he doesn't want to come back and fight somebody on a losing streak, even though Conor McGregor lost his last two fights to Poirier, and then the fight before that he lost the respect of all his fans and his street cred when Cowboy Cerrone took a dive, and then he lost before that to Khabib Nurmagomedov, and then not long before that he argumentatively lost the second fight to Diaz, and then he lost the first fight. So he really can't be saying much. But anyway, supposedly Ruffy was saying that Conor was saying he wants to come back to somebody that will be a competitive fight and that it will get the people excited. And then when the dude put Ruffy on the spot and said, did Conor McGregor actually say this like out of his own Twitter feed? Or are you just like, I guess he wanted to make sure that this dude wasn't just assuming anything. And I thought it was very interesting how Ruffy replied, and I wrote it down for you. Because at first, the way that Ruffy was talking about it was like these dudes, they met at Panera and they were trying to work out the details, and they're going to text Dana White so that they could put it on a contract, and they were like, face to face. But then when the dude put, chanclas to the fire, Ruffy says, what I received was yes. So it sounded at first like Ruffy was having this conversation with Conor McGregor and they were having a good back and forth and it was like a real thing. But then when he was put on the spot, Ruffy said, yes, what I received was yes. This was actually, the sentiment from Conor McGregor. So I don't know if they were talking through a second, third, and fourth party or what was going on, but it seems like Conor McGregor never even talked to this dude face to face. But again, let's go ahead and entertain this, because what I'm trying to do in this video is figure out if this is a viable matchup for Conor McGregor. Why should he do this? And as far as I'm confirmed, there's 3 reasons why Conor McGregor will come back to fight in the UFC. And reason number 1 is that Conor McGregor is on that Oscar De La Hoya trajectory, and that fool's up to his veneers in debt. He might be in some kind of troubles right now, financial troubles. And, it could be because of lawsuits. It could be because of lavish spending. It could be poor investments, whatever it might be. I don't know if you've seen it. This dude has been, not only online, he's been on Roblox. He's trying to promote he has a new like online gambling company. It's like a virtual casino that he just, doesn't look sketchy at all. He just started this new casino like the same weekend that he married Dee Devlin, so that now legally she can't testify against him. It's very interesting timing. Reason number 2 would be that he just wants to make sure he still got it. And that happens with people sometimes. Not only dudes when they just get a little bit older and maybe they got the wife chiming in their ears at home. They got a lot of babies crying. They got the boss frustrating them at work and they really need that job so they can't mouth off. I know dudes personally that have told me they refuse to signal on the freeway. They're out there texting and stuff like that. They're trying to incite road rage. They're trying to give people a reason. They're like, I ain't going to start it, but I'm going to be ready. They got sleeves rolled up 24/7. There's dudes like that, especially if you were a fighter and now you've been domesticated, you've been civilized. Sometimes you just want to make sure like you still got it. Kind of like Royce Gracie and Ken Shamrock coming back all those years later, just so that Royce Gracie could be a dirty, rotten cheater and do a groin shot that the referee wanted to act like he didn't see so that they could rip off Ken Shamrock. But that's neither here nor there. That's not what we're talking about right now. Or like GSP coming back and embarrassing and exposing and disgracing Michael Bisping just so that he could bounce. Right after that, it's kind of like I ain't as good as I once was, but I'm as good once as I ever was. It's kind of one of those things where maybe it's just a one and done. It's a White House thing. He feels good about himself. He could ride out on a high wave like Seinfeld the rest of his life, and then that's it. Nice storybook ending. And option number 3 is that he legitimately wants to get back into the rankings. He doesn't need a payday. He doesn't need to know if he still got it. He just loves the game. And this is, you know what, irregardless of, maybe he does need a payday. Maybe he doesn't. Maybe he does want to see if he still got it. Maybe he knows he still got it. Maybe he knows he doesn't got it, but he doesn't care. Maybe he's going to go in there like Tuivasa and lose 6 in a row. Maybe that's not it. He just misses the grind. He just misses the lifestyle. He just wants to get back into it. And again, this is where more than anywhere, because when someone wants to jump in and get a payday, when someone wants to jump in and see if they still got it every once in a while, if anything, the age makes it more interesting and intriguing. But when you try to get back in the rankings and do it on a consistent basis, that's where people start hating and calling you an old man. Now, here's what I think is very interesting. Conor McGregor is 37 years old. And it's astounding to me. It seems like the current MMA community, the makeup, and I don't know if the makeup of the current MMA community is a bunch of 12-year-olds or what, but it seems like in the MMA community right now as it stands, from the chatter I've been hearing, if you're 37 years old, you're basically Methuselah. And again, if you're part of the current 12-year-old MMA community, you don't even get that reference. But Conor McGregor's 37 years old. You know who else is 37? The dude that I just told everybody was going to win, but they said he's too old. Dustin Gaethje. He just won the interim championship against a younger guy. He's also 37, the same age as McGregor. You know who else is 37 years old? The guy, again, that I told everyone was going to win, that they were doubting, saying primarily because he was too old, Alexander Volkanovski. You know how old he is? 37. You know who else I just found out is 37? Nina Drama. And she's plowing through multiple divisions. People don't seem to respect that with age comes wisdom and experience. Haven't you seen The Graduate? And here's to you, Mrs. Robinson. Unfortunately, the perception, though, the way people look at it, Volkanovski, Gaethje, they're like, yeah, but they've been in it. They've been going through the motions. They're on the back end of it now. What about El Mero Mero? Yoel Romero. That dude didn't even debut in the UFC until he was 36. And he argumentatively beat Adesanya for that strap. So he's basically the champion. Because if we're counting damage and the effectiveness of strikes and not just tapping the leg and running around, straight up turning your back and Forrest Gumping that whole fight. And then I forgot that Yoel beat Whitaker the first time as well. So he's basically two-time champ. McGregor might sincerely have a love for the game and he just wants to get back into that rotation. Or he's doing like Amanda Nunes. Nunes walked away and decided she was just going to change diapers. And apparently, she got tired of playing Father of the Year, which McGregor is in no threat of. Maybe D. Devlin is making him come back. Maybe she's trying to make him get out the house. I have a list of fighters that I've come up with that McGregor could potentially fight. And as far as I'm confirmed, only one of these fighters makes sense for him to fight if he truly does want to get back into the rotation. And that would be Michael Chandler. And I believe this is ultimately why the UFC chose against it, because the fight became one whole big meme. And the UFC is not in the business of being a laughingstock, at least not intentionally. But I think that's why they stripped away the Chandler fight, because it became more of a pathetic thing because of the way Chandler handled it than anything. But I think that would be the most, exciting banger of a fight if he wanted to come back and get into the rotation. Now, if he's coming back for either a big payday or to make sure he's still got it in him and he wants a super fight, all of the next fighters on my list right here could fit for that. The first one being Paddy Pimblett. And I think the reason for that is because they could both be very exciting on the microphone. They both know how to be dramatic. They know how to stir up tension and bring the best and the worst out of the opponent. And I think this is one of those things where they're both so unlikable, at least at this point. I know that Paddy kind of had his people that were like blindly in love with him, but I think, people in the MMA community could be Rousey, don't get mad at me. Rousey was kind of onto something. Look at what happened with Tomas Aspinall. And after that, look at what happened with Ilia Tapoera. And after that, the same thing's happening with Paddy Pimblett. Now, people are fair weather, bro. I think if we had these two individuals that people love to hate, you know how like people love to watch, and it sounds messed up, but you slow down and you look, you rubbernecker, don't lie. You know how people like, that kind of sounded like a slur. It's a traffic slur. But you know how people like to slow down and watch like a car accident, but you also feel bad because they are fellow human beings and you don't want anyone to be hurt? Watching Conor McGregor and Paddy Pimblett fight would be like if you were watching a car accident, but you knew that both of the drivers were like child traffickers or door-to-door salesmen. Another fight for him could be the winner of the BMF championship with Oliveira and Max Holloway, whoever it may be. And I think in this case, and I think, deep down when we're talking about BMF, I think what it really represents, especially in a case like this, is it's the best mediocre fighter. So it's kind of one of these it's kind of like a checkpoint. It's like maybe you're not like in the bottom 30 and you're not a contender, and you're definitely never gonna, let's not even talk about interim champ, let alone the actual champ. But we made another title for you because somehow you've garnered a name for yourself and people like you and people are gonna tune in. But you ain't gonna hold the gold, We got a silver one for you. So you're the best mediocre fighter. I think where he's at right now, and it has nothing to do with age. It just has to do with never having been that good in the first place and having the best matchups and being overhyped and not growing with the sport. I think best mediocre fighter would make sense for him right now. Another option is Dustin Gaethje, and he's in a very tricky spot right now. And I have mentioned some potential matchups for him, and I'm not going to mention all of them right now because that's not relevant to this, but I'm just talking about Gaethje if he faced McGregor and why that will make sense. Well, Tapoera never wanted to face Gaethje in the first place, so he's going to find one reason or another to keep running, even though we just saw him in the background of Georgina's Instagram story. So now he probably needs to come up with a good excuse for that. And then Arman Tsarukyan, they're not probably still wanting to give him a title shot, and he's just going to choke out. Dana and Trump both know nobody wants to see Gaethje get choked out by Tsarukyan in the first 10 seconds. What kind of a main event is that? And nobody wants to see. I mean, it's supposed to be, at least he's from the United States, And at least if they get Conor McGregor, he's already like best friends with Donald Trump. He has these political aspirations. If they have Tapoera come to the White House, and he's too many things. This dude's like Mariah Carey. He's like Georgian and German and Spanish. Like Ilia Tapoera is so ethnically diverse. He makes Israel Adesanya look inbred. They don't want a dude like that going to the White House and beating the American. The dude that's always talking about how proud he is to be an American. At least if it's Conor McGregor. At least if it's Conor McGregor, that dude's been chilling in the Oval Office. Another matchup for Conor, Ilia Tapuera. Now, it would make sense for Ilia to fight Conor. The Kirkland Conor and the real Conor. Low budget Conor and the real Conor. There's people that talk about GMC being better than Chevy, about Epiphone being better than Gibson, about Mr. Pitt being better than Dr. Pepper. It's time to see what's what. Blind test. I think it will be exciting to see the Conor McGregor starter kit and then the final form. And that's not necessarily a compliment. It's kind of like you got the little maggot and then you got the full-grown fly that won't get off your hamburger. We could see McGregor against Volkanovski. We know that Volkanovski has had the dream to move up and get another strap. Now, Conor McGregor does not have a strap. Now, could they make some kind of fake strap? Both because it's at the White House and because it's Conor McGregor, I'm sure they could come up with something. They've done it with Jake Paul. I think they did it at some point for Mayweather. They did it with the BMF. They did it with the interim. They're in the business of making fake belts, but we already know that doesn't really matter too much because Volkanovski's always talking about that generational wealth and he works for the paycheck. And I'm not making this up and trying to make him sound bad. I've said it too many times. I know you keep hearing me repeat myself. He has said this in podcasts already that he fights for a paycheck and he's not ashamed of it because he has a family to provide for. And I support that. That's why he does it. And it will be the ultimate payday for his family to get that Conor McGregor check. And I think that he deserves it because we already know that he's got that acumen, that he's got that IQ, that he has that style, that grind, that work ethic that absolutely deserves it. Another matchup I've been talking about is Israel Adesanya. I think it will be unbelievable. And the only thing that I've heard any ignorant, naive people talk about is that Adesanya is too big because they forgot, apparently, that Kelvin Gastelum is less than an inch taller than Conor McGregor. And that's only because his feet were so fat because that dude doesn't stop eating. It has nothing to do with, it's not like a skeletal thing. His feet were puffy. If he actually cuts weight, he's probably about the same. He's probably shorter than Conor McGregor. And then on top of that, most of the time, Conor McGregor in real life weighs more than Israel Adesanya. The size is not a factor. In this situation, these are the two ultimate fallen from grace. UFC cover. Is he one of the best strikers ever in the UFC type of dudes? I think this will be an amazing matchup. Toe-to-toe, rock 'em, sock 'em, slobber knocker, gentleman's agreement. Let's not go to the ground. And then we got Islam Makhachev. This is the ultimate, like revenge. Like someone broke up with me. And I'm going to go find their doppelganger. And I'm going to find someone that looks exactly like them. They kind of wear the same perfume and stuff like they cut their hair the same. This is the closest that Conor McGregor is ever going to get back to running it back with Khabib Nurmagomedov if he gets to go toe-to-toe with Islam Makhachev. I think everybody would love to see. And we know how the fight would end. Let's not play stupid there. But the build-up, the drama, the emotion, the promos, that's where it's at. That's what the UFC has become. And I know there's people out there that hate Conor McGregor and they're like, I don't want to see him fight. I hope he never comes back again. He's a bad man. Well, who do you want to see fight? You want to see good man fight? You want to see Stephen Wonderboy Thompson and GSP going at it nonstop till the wheels fall off, till the end of time, just two dudes going. You need bad man. It's like Tony Montana. You need people like him. You need the bad guy. You need someone to point the finger. That's why we need people like John Jones. We need cavemen. We need barbarians. That's why they create this freak show. John McCain said it best, human cockfighting. And we didn't like it when he said it because of the context and the intentions. He was trying to make it go away. But at the end of the day, and you already know, even at the beginning of the day, that's what it is. It's human cockfighting. It's a freak show. And as fight fans, that's what we're tuning in for. The freak show. And if you don't like the freak show, then you could go watch Magnus Carlsen. So I got distracted and forgot all about Ruffy. The bottom line is that the ratio of how very dangerous Ruffy is, but also not even being close enough to being a big name, it will be a ridiculous decision for Conor McGregor. He should definitely not fight him.